Support comes from UT's Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, featuring miles of trails and nearly 900 native plant species. More about the official Botanic Garden of Texas at wildflower.org.
Hi, welcome to Este Garden. My name is Ana Maria Gutierrez. I am the garden manager here, alongside with my farming partner.
Hi, I'm Leah Scott, also farming here with Este Garden.
We broke ground here 5 seasons ago in May of 2020. This is a very special garden, and all our neighbors here know that, because when it was Eastside Cafe, it was 30 years of organic gardening, first farm to table restaurant, and now we're following along those footsteps of our former female farmers here.
It's a woman-powered space.
Yeah. Growing for Suerte, a Mexican restaurant here in town, and what will be their second restaurant, Este.
We're in fall in Texas, which is one of my favorite growing times. So we have a lot of plants that have held on from our summer crops.
This summer, we've been able to grow 2,500 pounds of produce compared to our last summer harvest, which was around 1,000 pounds. Leah will tell us what we're growing this season.
Yeah, we've got a whole lot of new transplants in the ground, so lettuces and cabbage, kale transplants as well, mizuna, lots of different greens. And then from direct sow, we've sown a lot of carrots, which are thriving.
I think 6 weeks ago was our first succession of carrots. We're growing bolero carrots, which are a great storage carrot and super sweet and crispy. And since then, we did our second succession probably 3 weeks ago, and then we did another round last week. And right now is the perfect time to seed your carrots. They have been germinating so quick. Pro tip, use some overhead watering after you sow your seeds for a few days. That's really gonna help with your carrot germination. In this bed here, we have a loose leaf lettuce called black-seeded Simpson. It's one of the few varieties of lettuce we're growing right now. This is a cut and come again lettuce. Really easy to grow. Can grow in the heat or the cold. Highly recommend for a home gardener. So in this bed, we're growing 3 different varieties of lettuce. Our first one is the Winter Density. That is a butterhead and romaine cross. We grew this last spring and it was so delicious. It's pretty tolerant of the heat, so it did well in the spring, but we hear it's also pretty tolerant of the cold, which is why we're growing it this fall. Second variety that we're growing is the Marvel of 4 Seasons. So this is a butterhead lettuce, a nice buttery flavor and sweet, delicate, and this lettuce is gonna have some red tips on it. So this is actually a French heirloom lettuce that is from the late 19th century. And it's called the Marvel of 4 Seasons because it is known to self-sow after the spring to produce a fall crop. So it's something that you could also try in the spring. And the third variety that we're growing is the Paris Island. This is a romaine or a cos lettuce. And I'm very excited about this variety because I hear that it makes some great lettuce wraps.
So in these beds, we have a variety of cabbages and Asian greens. So we have a Napa cabbage, Golden Acre, and Red Express, so 3 different cabbage varietals, and then 2 Asian green varietals, mustard greens and mizuna. These plants are kind of interplanted along with our fall tomatoes and peppers, as well as they have the canopy of our pecan tree. I think we all kind of form a relationship with the plants and recognize that they're incredibly generous. But when I think about growing, I ultimately think about growing soil as our main priority. And so to kind of give back to the soil, we like to plant cover crops. And so that's a crop that has a specific yield for the soil that we're not actually going to harvest from. And so for our purposes, cover crop it serves a lot of different purposes. One, it helps compete with the weeds. Additionally, it helps prevent erosion. It keeps soil in place, which helps with the absorption capacity for water for your raised beds. And for us, we've chosen a couple different cover crops for this season. One is a crimson clover. And so crimson clover is great for a couple of reasons. One, it's a legume. And so legumes have a symbiotic relationship with rhizobia. It's a bacteria that forms on their nodules on their roots. So it does this kind of magical thing through this relationship with this bacteria that it makes nitrogen that's atmospheric nitrogen available for plants to take up. So that process is called fixing nitrogen. And so that's really helpful for our plants because plants are heavy feeders. They require nitrogen. Another crop that we're going to be growing here as a cover crop are daikon radish. Daikon radish are, one, delicious, so they could be harvested if you chose, but they also are referred to as a tillage radish. They have a really deep taproot that goes beyond what you would actually harvest. And so it's mining for nutrients in a deep in the subsoil and bringing that up and making it accessible to other plants around it. And now I rake it in. It's just a light raking.
For home gardeners and beginner gardeners, I highly recommend that you grow some radishes this fall. It is one of the easiest crops to grow, and it has one of the quickest days to maturity. That means from the day that you seed it in the ground to the time that you harvest. The quickest growing radishes, like a sorrel radish, will be ready to harvest in just 22 days. These watermelon radishes that we're growing here, our variety is the red meat, are ready to harvest within 50 days.
One of the perennial challenges for gardening is controlling weeds, and here at Este we have several tools in our toolkit for that. One of our favorites is the scuffle hoe or stirrup hoe. It goes by many names. But essentially the tool has a blade on the base that you actually run underneath the soil and cut weeds at their roots. So it's a really effective tool for getting weeds out, specifically at their thread stage, but beyond as well, we've found, particularly when soil conditions are right. So another great tool that we love for weed control is our hand tiller. So this one is helpful for weeds that are further established or maybe a little more aggressive. And so the way we use it is you kind of stand over it and then use your core to turn, and you actually are loosening up the roots at the base. So for us, we really struggle with grasses that work their way into our beds. And so things that have really aggressive roots need a little bit more of a aggressive tool.
This fall, go and get your cabbage transplants along with some blood and bone meal and get them in the ground. So cabbage is a heavy nitrogen feeder. So what we did here is when we dug up a hole, we sprinkled some blood and bone meal and then transplanted our cabbage. And what that's gonna do, it's gonna help create vigorous cabbage plants with a lot of green growth to produce some beautiful heads of cabbage. We've got our first succession of cilantros here that we seeded around 3 or 4 weeks ago. And today we're gonna be seeding our second succession in this bed so that we can continuously harvest cilantro throughout the rest of the fall and into the winter. So with cilantro, you're dropping a seed basically every inch or so. What is so great about the fall here in Texas is that we are still growing some of our summer crops along with our fall and winter crops. We still have our peppers, our tomatoes, eggplant, and okra going while we're seeding and transplanting lettuce, cabbage, some more greens, and carrots.